Okay, welcome to Fresh Set of Downs. It's playoff edition, week one, and Mr. EPA football himself, Dave Micah, with me this week. Dave, it's great to have you back, man. You've been gone a couple of weeks, mostly due to the Phillies, but then you were a little under the weather and guy, you were on vacation, but
Yeah,
you came back at the right time. I tell you, this is when things, even though the temperatures are dropping, the competition is really heating up, isn't it?
it is. It is. I mean, it's now when you move on, lose, your season's done. And it's hard to believe that we're getting close to getting to Cumberland Valley here.
That is it. I think the overriding thing, when I talk to guys, out there covering the games, and you obviously, I mean, you just kind of get into the season, and then all of a sudden, you just hit this crescendo, and then it's like, wow, it really starts to drop off as really starting in the next couple of weeks here. We'll have a lot of teams, exit, and the cream
Hmm.
will kind of rise to the top, won't it?
Yeah, well, and there's teams that are looking to defend their state title from last year, and um, it's going to be interesting to see as the weeks go. We have a big matchup in District 4 this week, Southern Columbia versus Mount Carmel. Same thing like last year where Mount Carmel knocked off Southern in the regular season. Can they do it in the playoffs? We're going to find out Friday night.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. The one thing too that for me anyway, it seemed like with the exception of a couple areas, the playoffs really don't get rolling almost until next week. There were a lot of buys last week. In fact, the entire 6A didn't even play in District 3.
Yeah.
And then you're getting into those early round games where you've got the 1 seed versus the 16 or 1 versus 12 and what have you. So the matchups really don't start heating up until next week. And obviously we'll go through the games from last week and take a look at the upcoming schedule and that. But give me your thoughts on that, the fact of we're kind of hurrying up and waiting when it comes to the really high profile matchups in the postseason, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's as the weeks go, obviously the competition's going to get tougher. Some are kind of starting, their state playoffs where some are still playing in the districts. So there's still a lot of football to be played. But in the end, who's going to make it, you know, the last weekend in December in Cumberland Valley? That's the goal.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I'm going to share my screen here. Got a couple games that um, we had. Oh, and yeah, there's you can see that, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
So some of the key week one playoff results that I saw last week. I thought Abington Heights beating Scranton, up there in District 2. I'll tell you what, that was really a toss-up game. And what a game that was, wasn't it?
Yeah, and now they move on and they'll play Delaware Valley, who I think would be the favorite in that matchup. But Abington Heights is have a I think a quiet but very good year this year.
And you touched on a little bit, Mount Carmel sets up their matchup with Southern Columbia with a big win over while losing.
Yeah, and we had a reporter there, and what he said is that Wyalusing, they really ran the ball well against Mount Carmel in that game. Mount Carmel did have the big plays in that game, and they're going to need to do that again this week. But listen, Southern Columbia, that's their bread and butter. is to run that ball, and we'll see how this matchup goes.
Those teams, Mount Carmel and Southern Columbia, there's nothing to hide. It's just kind of going to be kind of mano y mano. But getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. But the team probably that I was most impressed with in the first round and really have all year. I guess we shouldn't be impressed now. We should expect just a fine performance by Chester, really 44 to nothing over Upper Moreland. Wow.
Yeah, and they got Phoenixville this week, a game that they should win. And looking at the bracket at the bottom of that, where they're at, they have Plymouth White Marsh playing Ruston, two very good programs. And then, the bottom of that bracket, you have Strathaven, Upper Dublin playing, Springfield Delco, Marple Newtown. So it's a tough bracket. I really I think we may end up seeing a Chester Strathaven possible District 1 5A final.
Yeah, that would be really something. CB South. Wow, that just a 1 point victory over Coatesville. One of the earliest exits I can remember for Coatesville, in a season.
Yeah, I agree. And that was a tough matchup and probably one of the more tougher matchups last week. And traditionally lately, it seems there's always a lower seed that's going to knock off a higher seed. In one game, and we're covering it this week, our boy Joe is covering the Garnet Valley CB West game. Unfortunately, CB West, they lost their key running back with the ACL injury, and we'll see how that affects them. But I think that game's going to be much closer now, not having him in the backfield.
Yeah, you hate to see that. Late in the
Yeah,
season, somebody who gets you there, and quite honestly, it's really hard, regardless of the skill level of that particular player. There's so much chemistry that goes on in development in a team up until this point. To lose a major cog, that's really tough. But Roman, a big win over Archbishop Wood. Roman just keeps rolling in 5A there in District 12. But Archbishop Wood, this was a perennial powerhouse, multiple
yeah.
state championships, and quite honestly, really falling on hard times there in District 12. I don't recall such a precipitous fall from grace as Archbishop Wood has had in the Philadelphia Catholic League. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a program that obviously is not what it used to be. When you talk Archbishop Wood, that's a team that you thought, okay, could make it to the state finals and they were winning state titles. Obviously they're just a shell of what they used to be. And, right now Roman Catholic is the top dog. They have a bye this week. They'll get the winner of MOTEP and Martin Luther King. And I like, obviously, MOTEP to win that game and set up a matchup with MOTEP and Roman Catholic next week.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty incredible. And from District 11 there, Emmaus over Freedom there, 19 to 14. Talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, been a while since Emmaus has knocked them off like that. Tremendous win. I knew that matchup was probably going to be the closest matchup of the four games last week, and it turned out to be a great game. Freedom had the lead, and then Emmaus, countered and got the lead. I think late and held on to win a 19-14 win, and now they get the number one seed Parkland.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. But hey,
Yes.
you just survive it and advance, and you never know when lightning might strike. Steel High wins the District 3 1A championship, which I think everybody thought they were going to, 56-22 over Halifax. So Steel High moves on into the PIAA tournament, Dave. I mean, what a team.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that defending state champs, a team that a lot of people think that they could get back and repeat. Looking at the bracket, they're at the bottom. They play Belmont Charter, should win this week, and then they'll get the District 5 winner, and that's Northern Bedford or Windbird. So, looking at their path, um, I this is a team that I'll tell you what, probably their biggest challenge is going to be from the upper part of this bracket, and that's going to be the District 4-6 winner, whoever
Hmm.
comes out of there.
Yeah.
That's probably where they might get challenged a little. But this is a team has one goal, and that's to win 3 state titles in 4 years.
Yeah, pretty incredible. There's not a lot of history of that in the entirety of Pennsylvania State High School football. Maybe the biggest upset of last week was in District 3 as well in 2A. Camp Hill actually um, beat Anvil Cleona. The Camp Hill was the fourth seed, Anvil Cleona, the number one seed, 35-21. And yeah, Camp Hill, I tell you what, they've had a great season this year, a historical powerhouse here in Pennsylvania. And now that sets themselves up for a District 2A championship run. What do you think about that one, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably maybe the biggest upset last week, with the Camp Hill knocking off Anvil. Now they get the number 2 seed Trinity. Trinity's a team that I think a lot of people think will come out of that bracket. They're a team that I picked to win that sub-region, District 1, 3, 12. If they do beat Camp Hill this week, they'll get the winner of Bristol West Catholic. And, that's an interesting bracket. I mean, West Catholic hasn't, they're what, 0-9.
Yeah.
I think Bristol should win that game. But looking at that bracket, I think Trinity is definitely gonna, move on and possibly get the winner of District 11 too in the upper bracket.
Well, Camp Hill and Trinity is actually the game that actually Bob Long, Bob, who can't be with us tonight, normally with us, Bob and I will be broadcasting that game for Penn Live. Will be
Oh,
the
nice.
District 2 championship game there between Camp Hill and Trinity. Just a lot of background on that. I mean, the teams are only like 2 miles apart. They've
Wow.
played, I think, like over 60 times, yet they've never faced off for a district championship.
That's
So
interesting.
it is
Yeah.
it is going to be a real interesting game. It was a packed house. Actually, broadcast their regular season matchup that actually came down to Camp Hill scored on the last play of the game and went for two. They got it, but it was called back because of penalty. And
Oh,
then they went for it again, going for two from like the 12-yard line and unfortunately missed it. So that's what they gave Trinity a 14-13 win in the opening round. So that's going to be an
wow.
incredible game, Trinity and Camp Hill this
Hmm.
upcoming week, and we'll have you have that on Penn Live. Penn State 51 to 15 over Maryland. I was down there, and I'll tell you what, um, Coach Franklin, there was a lot to talk about this week about the fact of, when he came in to the press conference after the game, he was he kind of a little bit, I don't want to say upset, but he was concerned about the fact that at least some of the media were not cherishing the wins and that. In fact, Coach Franklin said, "Hey, just give me 15 minutes here to enjoy this win."
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that you've got to, if you want to be successful, as you're climbing that ladder. you've got to enjoy how you're getting there. And
Yeah.
I sided with Coach Franklin and what he had to say. Just give me 15 minutes here. Let's enjoy this win. Hey, look, Maryland, a very respectable Big Ten team. I mean, I think they started out 4-0 over
Hmm.
some pretty top flight competition, and obviously took it on the chin the week before Penn State with Northwestern. But I tell you what, that was a good ball club that Penn State beat pretty handily. And you got to cherish those Big Ten wins wherever they come and
Hmm.
wherever you play. I mean, whatever opponent you do. So Penn State a big win, and we'll talk about the fact that Penn State's got a pretty tough opponent coming up,
Yeah, Michigan.
this week in Michigan, and that too. So that'll be a lot of fun. So look, what we're going to do right now is take a look at the EasternPAFootball.com rankings. So I'm
Hmm.
going to do my best to try and pull that up here. And you can probably see that right now. I'll probably see the 5-6, right, Dave?
Yep.
So obviously, you can see it's a little bit to the left there, but St. Joe Prep number one, Imhotep Tep Charter number two, and then kind of run down the list there, Dave. I mean, these
Yeah.
are
I
these are
mean,
your rankings here.
we have Parkland now, District 11-3, CB West 4, Downington East 5, Manheim Township 6, Central York 7, Harrisburg 8, Nazareth 9, and then we have a tie in 10th with Chester and Souderton. I'll tell you what, all great programs. There's a lot of good programs that
Wow.
are in my honorable mention. And, especially 6A, 5A, there's so many schools that, that's why you see so many on this list. But listen, again, the last couple weeks, I really haven't had to change much at all. Even in the honorable mentions, I mean, these programs are winning, and eventually, some are going to play each other, and some are going to move up, some are going to move down. But for the most, these teams have been around the top 10 all year.
Yeah, that's been the interesting thing that we haven't had a lot of fluctuations. I mean, in our rankings, there hasn't been that signature upset really in any classification. It doesn't seem like,
Yeah.
Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, besides maybe Southern Columbia, in the lower rankings losing a few weeks ago to Mount Carmel, there hasn't been, that big upset. But again, as we move forward, we're going to see that, some of these programs are going to end up playing each other. And, so again, some teams are going to move up, some are going to move down. So,
Yeah, and talk a little bit about the 4A the 3-4 rank, the 3A 4A rankings, Dave.
yeah, we've had Bishop McDevitt number one all year, Pope John Paul II, having a tremendous season. They're doing a great job there. They're number two. Why I'm missing, the team that's always up in my rankings. Three, Jersey Shore, four, Manheim Central, five, Selinsgrove, six, Newman Gretty's having a tremendous year out of District 12. Central Catholic, Allentown Central
Oh, wow.
Catholic, they have a big matchup with Bethlehem Catholic there for the 4A District 11 title. And then in 3A, I'll tell you what, in District 11, you have Northwestern Lehigh, and then, Palmerton is 10th, with the Dallas Tide. But that 3A in District 11 is just, wow, what a matchup this week. You have Northwestern Lehigh and Palmerton, you have Notre Dame, North Schuylkill. I mean, all those four teams at one time or another, I think were in my top 10 this year.
Yeah, and look, I want to do a shout out for your honorable mention there, Schuylkill Valley here, Berks County
Yes.
team. They won their first I think district game, in their school history of that. So last week. So shout out to Schuylkill Valley. But I'll tell you what when you look at this, and this is what I talk about, not a lot of these teams either have A played or B been tested yet. But as you talked about, I mean, this is going to whittle down real fast,
Yeah.
as it plays out. So the quality or the quantity of the high quality games is really going to, accelerate here. And let's take a look at the small school rankings.
Yep.
Oop,
Yep. Just hit the X.
there we go. Yeah, did. So the small school rankings here as we go down to it. Why don't you go through those, Dave?
Yeah. I mean, I have Steel High 1, Mount Carmel 2, Southern Columbia 3, Troy 4, Lackawanna Trail out of District 2, 5, Muncie 6. A team that's not in the PIAA, but a very good
Academy
1A
of the New
team.
Church there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they have some talent and some, Division One lacrosse players on that team. There's 7, Canton 8, Trinity 9, Schuylkill Haven 10. But, you see I have Mount Carmel ahead of Southern. I know some people kept Southern ahead of Mount Carmel, but, my philosophy is this. They did beat them regular season.
Yeah.
Okay, Southern
That's the first
Columbia.
tiebreaker. It's head to head, right?
Yeah, so Southern Columbia, they get it done this week, they're going to move up, and obviously Mount Carmel would move down. So for regular season, hey, you got to give Mount Carmel credit. I think they're the first team in a while that beat Southern Columbia back to back years.
Wow.
I don't know another team that's done that.
That's pretty incredible. And and that's why I think, quite honestly, I think the pressure is on Mount Carmel in that game, not on Southern Columbia. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you're right. Mount Carmel, going this game. Southern Columbia's been there, done that. They're not going to panic. They had the 3 losses last year, and they made that tremendous run and ended up winning a state title. I think the way they are approaching it is, okay, we were like this last year. People are doubting us. We're going to prove everyone wrong once again.
Yeah, and on the Mount Carmel side, hey, look, the window may be closing here. You know what I'm saying? It's like with this group of players and what
Yep.
have you, and Southern Columbia really not being the juggernaut that it, had been in previous
Yeah.
seasons. That's why I think the pressure is all on them. That it's kind of like they got to do it now, or maybe it might be another generation before they can, get back to this level. But that's the fun here, is the fact that it comes down to these rivalries, especially up north there. These teams all know one another pretty well, so it just comes down to who's going to execute,
Hmm.
and who's going to execute, who's going to make the fewest amount of mistakes, and who's going to come out on top, right?
And I'm gonna quick check this. I think I saw somewhere, and I think I might be correct that this, if they would beat Southern Columbia, this would be their 900th win.
Oh my gosh.
So you put
We could be
that,
stuck on 899 for all the
yeah,
entire
yeah.
offseason.
So I think I read that somewhere that possibly, this could be win number 900 if they would knock off the defending state champ Southern Columbia. I
Very
mean,
good.
so there's so much riding in this game.
Yeah, yeah, there really is, and that's why it's so much fun. So, all right, well, listen, I'm gonna pull up some of the games that we that I thought were big, and obviously if there's some more, which there probably are here, we'll bring them up, as we go along here, Dave. But
Hmm.
first and foremost, District 1, 6A, Downingtown West at Souderton. I mean, Downingtown West with a couple losses, Souderton undefeated. I mean, what a battle of heavyweights, eh?
Yeah, it really is. I think I like Souderton in that game. Downington West has a very good program, but I kind of like Souderton to win a close game. And you look at that bracket now, since of the injury for CB West, who I thought would possibly win that bracket. Um, Downington East is the team that kind of has gotten hot at the end of the regular season, and a team that I'll tell you what, I would not be shocked if they come out and win that bracket.
I wouldn't be either. I really wouldn't. Another really top flight game out of District 1 and 5A. Westchester Ruston, who I had an opportunity to see earlier this year, just demolish Kennett, is at Plymouth Whitemarsh. I mean, just another heavyweight battle. Now we start to get into, these like, how do you pick a winner games? And I think this is the toughest pick, maybe in all of District 1 to pick a winner this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like both programs. I think that's going to be a tremendous matchup. Um, it, Boy, if I could pick Plymouth White Marsh 5 times. I could pick Ruston 5 times. I think that's how that game's gonna go. Um, and watch, someone will blow someone out, but I think that one is gonna be who has the ball last that could win that game.
Yeah, and we've got our good friend Bruce Emsweiler. Yeah, he kind of chiming in on our next game here. Let's talk a little bit about Jersey Shore at Selinsgrove, Dave. I mean, pretty incredible here. Isn't weren't these the two that tied during the regular season?
Yeah, that's when unfortunately they had the player who got hurt and ended up passing like 3 weeks later.
Hmm.
That was the game that they stopped and decided, you know, they weren't going to continue the game.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of emotions in this game. Um, I think both programs, I wouldn't be surprised if you see them do a prayer together, maybe before the game. But once that whistle blows, they're going to put their helmets on and they're going to play the game. But again, for the players, the coaches, the fans, this is going to be a tough one. There's going to be a lot of teary eyes in this game, and but again, it's a great matchup. Another game that could go either way. You almost kind of root for Jersey Shore for what they went through. Um, and I think a lot of people feel that way, throughout the state.
Yeah, and let's touch on as well Mount Carmel at Southern Columbia. Again, it seems like we've been talking about it the whole show, but as I mentioned, I think that all the pressure is on Mount Carmel, not on Southern Columbia here. The expectation is that Southern Columbia is, the dominant team there and should win. But Mount Carmel, having beaten them in consecutive years and having such great seasons, that they have to try and capitalize on it and get beyond the district level for the first time in a while. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, this is a team that has beat them in the regular season back-to-back years, which is a tremendous accomplishment. But when it really counts is now. And, last year, Southern Columbia got the job done, went on, won the state title. Can Mount Carmel shock the world and be, one of the great programs, just not even small school, one of the great programs in Pennsylvania history? Um,
Maybe in the United States. Clearly, from a small school level, Southern Columbia has to rank as one of the top programs in the United States in the small school level. What do you think?
yeah, but
I mean, they were number
hey,
one for Jeff Fisher just a couple years ago,
three
right?
years, yeah, like I think 3 years in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
But listen, again, Mount Carmel has a lot of history, a lot of tradition. There's a reason why they're the winningest program in the state of Pennsylvania. And like I said, I'll have to confirm this, but I think this could be, win number 900, and how sweet would that be?
That just
Um, so so there's so much, it's like a movie, it's like a story, and so there's so many little stories in this huge story. I guess we're gonna find out Friday night, and we will be there. Eastern PA football will be there to cover that game.
well, good stuff. Now we get into some championships here. District 11 2A, Williams Valley, and Schuylkill Haven. Our buddy Mike Farr, uh,
Yeah.
with a great season there at Schuylkill Haven. They're playing for the 2A championship there in District 11. And this is a neutral site game. This isn't the higher seeded team. This is District 11 still does neutral sites here. So what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one is going to be going back and forth. But I like Schuylkill Haven. I've liked them all year. Mike Farr does a tremendous job. He's built such a culture there. It starts with the little kids all the way up to high school. And, the little kids see what these kids are doing, and they put the time in through the years. And by the time they get in high school, it's just next man up. And I like Schuylkill Haven to win this game and win that District 11 2A title.
Bethlehem Catholic, Allentown Central Catholic. Just some traditional rivals there, Dave. Uh, your thoughts? That's just going to be a knockdown drag out. I think people are probably picking Central Catholic over Bethlehem Catholic, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most, Central Catholic is the favorite in this one. Listen, Bethlehem Catholic's first year coach has done a tremendous job. I think he has that program going in the right direction. But I listen, this is Central Catholic's game, and I like Central Catholic to win this game. And last year they made that run. Could they do it again this year? We'll find out.
The best team nobody's talking about is really the resurgent Marian Catholic team. They're playing Minersville for the District 11 1A championship. A legendary coach coming back to salvage a program, and he brings them to the 1A title game. Talk a little bit about that, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, he had a nice win against Tri Valley last week, 14-6. Minersville beat a Nativity BVM team in overtime, 19-13. I think this one's going to be another close, low scoring game. And, um, I give Minersville the slight edge, but this Marian Catholic team is very hungry, and I wouldn't doubt if you see them holding that, trophy and coming out being, Class A District 11 champs.
And I touched on this game a little bit earlier. This is the Penn Live game that we'll be doing Friday night. Camp
Hmm.
Hill at Trinity, a very storied rivalry for anybody really not around District 3 or around the Mid-Penn Conference there. But these two teams only just a couple miles apart. They played over 50 times. This is the first time they will have
Wow.
ever played for a district championship against one another. I broadcast the regular season matchup I touched on a little bit earlier that came down to the final play. Now, Messiah Mickens didn't play in that one, but he will be playing in this one. He's a transcendent player, Penn State recruit.
Hmm.
And so he'll be playing in this game. I tell you what, it's going to be a knockdown drag out, but they're playing at Trinity District 3. It's all
Hmm.
the games are always held at the higher seeded team, Trinity number 2, Campbell number 4. And yeah, I think that Trinity, tell you what, they've got a little bit more size, a few more numbers, and with Mickens, they're going to be tough to beat. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I agree. With him in the backfield and anytime he's on the field, he's a threat to take it to for a touchdown. And I think this is a game that will be high scoring. But I think in the end, Trinity comes out with the win and moves on to face the winner, Bristol and West Catholic.
Yeah, that you're right, because now obviously all these champions get filtered into the PIAA as well starting next week. But maybe it's a shame because probably the feel good stories of District 3 football this year have been Ephrata and Garden Spot, each of them kind of resurrecting their programs. And unfortunately, they're meeting here in a quarterfinal round in 5A in District 3. But wow, I mean, Ephrata, Chris Miller, just a tremendous job. Matt Zamperini there at Garden Spot. I've gotten to know these gentlemen over the
Hmm.
last couple of years. I've been impressed with how they brought these programs back. And this is what it's all about. There's going to be, I can tell you, there's just going to be an overflow of emotion in this game. And a Garden Spot really strong on offense, but
Hmm.
Ephrata, I tell you what, they've beaten all comers. Who do you like in that one, Dave?
Boy, again, now, were you surprised how close it was last week with the Lower Dauphin game?
Not really. I've seen Lower Dauphin, play or what have you, but Lower Dolphin's still, a pretty good program. And they were on their way up. And I saw Lower Dauphin, actually the only barometer I had, I saw them play against McDevitt. So that really not a good measure of a team when you go up against Bishop McDevitt. But I think Ephrata really has a lot of weapons. They're big. But Matt Zamperini really has a strong offense at Garden
Hmm.
Spot, and they're playing at home. And that means a lot, I think, when you're trying to ride the emotion of a great season, of a resurgent season. I think playing at home is a huge advantage. So I kind of like Garden Spot there. What do you think?
Yeah, I do too. I like Garden Spot, and I think that they'll face New Oxford, who is the number one seed. They play
See, I don't
Hershey.
think so. My upset pick is going to be
Wow,
Hershey.
really?
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been a big fan of Coach Painter and Hershey all year. I like their running game. They got a real stud running back, and Angel
Okay.
Cabrera. And there was a highlight, and I wish I could pull it out there of the dad cut up like when he basically bowled through two Exeter players, getting a touchdown last week. And actually, I got to meet him down. He was actually down on a recruiting visit at Maryland this week, and
Wow,
got to meet him and his dad. So sometimes things just happen for a reason. That's like so crazy. But I really like
interesting.
Hershey. Very strong running game, maybe as good offensive line play as I've seen all season
Hmm.
here at District 3. So
All
that's my
right,
upset
so
special.
all right, you
I'm
heard
on the
it
record.
first. Bruce is on the record. So next week when we come back on, will Bruce be talking about his upset pick? I guess we're
Uh,
gonna find out.
that's what we're going to find out. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Look, and the funny thing is I'm standing down there with the Hershey group, after the game. And, like I said, I know that those guys pretty well. And I mean, the coaches after the game, they're so emotionally spent. They can't even stand up straight on this. They're kind of leaning up against the fence and everything else. I mean, after that one, I mean, coming back from 21-0 down
Yeah.
at halftime to beat Exeter there, what an emotional win. But, um, I like their chances. So,
Okay.
all right. Well,
I'm marking
uh,
that down.
I think I'm on the record.
I think so.
All right. Let's try here. District 12, the Philadelphia Catholic League 6A championship. Two arch rivals, LaSalle versus St. Joe Prep. If Bob Long was here, we'd be going for an hour dissecting this game. But
Or Joe with St.
or Joe,
Joe's.
that's right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I tell you what, it could take days and cost thousands of lives if we had those two guys analyze the game. One on one side, one on the other. But yeah, no, LaSalle, St. Joe Prep, man, that's just hard to talking about obviously the talented St. Joe Prep. They manhandled LaSalle earlier in the season, and I just don't see how that result is going to change. That the St. Joe Prep is, not going to win the PCL championship. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a team I think most feel is going to get back to Cumberland Valley and defend that state title. Who are they going to play? We'll find out. But, to get there, well, first up is LaSalle's in their way. I like Prep to win big there. And they're going to play the winner of Lincoln versus Northeast. Um, just looking at the bracket, then eventually, most likely play either Parkland, Nazareth right now with some of the injuries and stuff with Nazareth. I kind of like Parkland coming out of that bracket. And, eventually they're going to play that District 1, team. Is there a team in District 1 that could give Prep a game? I don't think so because the
Downingtown
way
East is is they've shown that they're kind of the class act of District 1 this year. And the reason and they're just very run oriented team.
yeah,
I mean, and quite honestly, I think that lends itself to possible upset because of being able to possess the ball. The only way you're going to beat St. Joe Prep is if you got a strong running game and can
in
possess the ball.
turnovers. Yeah,
Right, exactly. So,
but
but but
this is what I was on another radio show and someone asked me how good is Prep, and I said, well, their only loss, mind you, was 3 points to a team that's
IMG.
probably top three in the nation. There's no IMG Academy in Pennsylvania.
No, there is
So,
not.
so, you know, to beat St. Joe's Prep, you're going to have to play a absolute perfect game and hope you get
And everything's got to
turnovers.
fall your way. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. And listen, it's high school kids. It can happen. Listen, Prep, when they get to the state finals, they're not winning every single time. There's been teams out in the Pittsburgh area, Pine Richland is one of them who has beaten St. Joe's Prep. So it can happen. But again, they lost to a team that's probably top three in the nation by 3 points.
and the one thing, obviously, you talk about talent, but the one thing I think the just an enormous factor here is look, we see coaches all the time. I mean, I've been so totally impressed with the coaching staff there and Tim
Hmm.
Roken and the job that they do.
Absolutely.
It's not just in preparing the team to play, it's
Hmm.
making adjustments during the game that I think that they're even better at to
Yeah.
ensure that their team comes out on top, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the coaching staff that they have, and sometimes they have professional athletes, helping
Oh,
them
it's hanging
out.
around, right? They're
Uh,
hanging around the sidelines there.
yeah, I mean, later in the season, you hear about them practicing at the Eagles, bubble practice field. So they have a lot of good situations to prepare them for these games. And the schedule they play, the national schedule,
Oh,
um, it prepares them for this run, and it prepares these kids academically and also, what they do on the field, not only for what they're doing now, but for the next level and maybe the next level after that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we both like St. Joe Prep in that game.
Yeah,
Um,
to go pretty far.
yeah, correct.
And
And
I'm on the record for that.
then you're on the record, really.
Boy, I'm
You are
really
really going out on a limb, pal.
yeah, I really am.
You're strapped onto the trunk. You're so far out on a limb. I mean, anyway, so Michigan at Penn State. Look, I'll be honest with you. I think that there's more pressure on Coach Franklin than there is like on the team, in this game. I mean, he caught so much flack, and I look, and I don't think that's deserving of what's going on. Obviously, everybody looks at Penn State's record against Michigan, Ohio State, top 10 opponents, yada yada yada. But look, this team goes out there and can compete with anybody any week, and I think any college football fan would sign up for that sight unseen,
Hmm.
and that's what Penn State's got. Um, they've got Michigan at home. I think that they've got Michigan reeling too. I mean, with this whole whatever it is,
Yeah,
steel sign gate, whatever
yeah.
is going on, that is such an enormous distraction. If there's a time that Penn State can rise up, it could be this week. And do I think that they're going to do it? Boy, that's a tough call. But
You know,
if there's going to be a time to do it, I think it's this week.
I think the criticism he's getting, and I just brought it up, is against top 10 teams, he's 3-16. And, in the Big Ten, it's Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah,
I, I think until he can beat one of those programs, not only one year, but consistently, um, I think that's where you're getting the hostility towards him, from the media. So listen, I like Franklin. He's a great guy. He's a great recruiter, but statistics don't lie. And being 3-16 against top 10 teams, you'd like to see it reverse 16-3, but can he improve that number,
hey,
going forward?
not to interrupt, but actually, MCA Red Tornadoes football on live chat just did confirm that Mount Carmel's win this week would be the 900th
Yeah,
in
that's what
school
I thought.
history.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys, for watching the show. We really appreciate that. Really appreciate all the statistics and what have
So,
you.
I mean, what a huge game that is.
Oh, man.
It's a huge game no matter what, but you just throw that. I mean, they'll be partying till they'll probably close school for a week if they get this W this Friday.
Well, and see,
It's a big
and
win.
look,
It would be a big win
it'd be a big win, and clearly, and
for many reasons.
sure, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. There's a couple things that I can talk about big wins like that if they move on, we'll talk about next week. But back to Michigan at Penn State. Um, I think that this is the stars almost totally aligned here for Penn State to come up with a victory. I
Hmm.
think I think a noon start benefits them a lot because they're sleeping in their own bed and getting up and going over there, where Michigan has had to have traveled and get all of their gear over to the stadium and everything like that, and get it all set up. And I think the noon start really benefits Penn State a lot.
Hmm.
And you know not that Penn State has started out fast this year, because they haven't, but I think that the early start benefits them too. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a edge, but again, I think they need to play a perfect game. They have to do it in all three phases: special teams, defense, offense. They need to jump out early and put the pressure on them, because if they have the lead as the time is clicking, and you get later in the game, you're going to add that pressure more on Michigan.
Well, and here's two things that I think, two weaknesses that I saw in Penn State coming into the season, which I think that they've somewhat rectified as the season gone on. Number one, place kicking. Alex Falcons has done a great job
Hmm.
in kicking field goals. He had three of over 30 yards against Maryland last week. He's really looked solid. He's developed confidence. And most of all, the coaching staff has confidence in him. They're going to send him out there, expect him to, and the team expects him to make it. Number two, Drew Aller looked so comfortable in the
Hmm.
pocket last week, and not with he wasn't doing the dink and dunk routes. He's doing the long passes. I mean, some of these passes that he was threading the needle over a defender and to his receiver, between the defender and the out of bounds, were awesome. And taking some deeper shots,
Hmm.
and
Well,
and it's
that's going to help the running game. If he's throwing deep, that should open up the running game that much more.
all I have to say is go back to my tweet that I talked about when he threw that touchdown pass against Indiana.
Hmm.
And I said then that I felt that this was this was where you were going to think of Drew Aller in a different light. And
Hmm.
he looked like a completely different quarterback
It was like a
against
turning
Maryland.
point for him.
Absolutely right, with that deep
Yeah,
ball. And it's not only that, but the coaching staff having confidence in him to call those plays, that he can do that. And he
yeah.
really looked good. And exactly right, you have to make your opponent defend the entire field, and that deep passing game, or those long outs, to the sideline, though, those deep outs to the sideline, it makes those defenses think twice about leaving their guys out on an island, and crashing everybody to the box. So I think that was a turning point, and not just last week. It was that touchdown pass against Indiana is what changed everything for Drew Aller. I mean, I'll have to retweet that if they beat Michigan here and he has a good day. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, so it's just a lot of great football coming up, and
Hmm.
I'll be there um, at the Penn State, Michigan, providing reports on Eastern PA football, and that's it's been a lot of fun. But I'll tell you what, we take a little bit different angle, a lot more on the social media aspect, and getting some pictures out there and everything else. So a lot different than what most of the guys are doing. I do it a different way, and I'll be honest with you. Last week really had a lot. We really had a lot of traction on that. I think the fans really started to like the fact that we're providing a different perspective of these Penn State games than what they're normally seeing. And
Yeah.
I had a lot of nice confidence. So or
Good.
comments. So but anyway, gosh, Dave, it's been a really great show. I mean, it really starts to pick up from here, doesn't it, my friend?
Yeah, I'm looking forward. Was doing a lot of traveling. Was in Colorado. Was at the Phillies game. I was
For
all
more than
over,
one
and
week. I mean, it was like a month. You were like,
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was just a crazy month for me, but I'm hey, it's playoffs gearing up and this week here are some of the games we're covering. So we're covering Mount Carmel, Southern Columbia, Garnet Valley, CB West, Lewisburg versus Danville. I got Northampton Nazareth. We have Perkiomen Valley, Downington East, Susquehanna Township, Manheim Central, and we're doing Saturday Interact. This is their last weekend, so we're doing
Mhm.
a big one with Malvern Prep and Springside Chestnut Hill.
Wow,
So we got some
nice.
really great games that we're going to be covering this week.
Yeah, and I like the mantra on the website there. We cover football, and then obviously Saturday we'll be at Penn State and
Yep.
Michigan as well. So all the top flight games here, Eastern PA football, and then we'll talk about it again. Uh, I I think on Monday next we'k. I don't know. We'll have to get with Bob and figure out
Yeah.
what day that we can get all back together. I'm sure he'll have a lot to talk about in the LaSalle St. Joe prep game and everything else. And then ultimately we kind of merged the two podcasts. Fresh Set of Downs in with the WPIAL Blitz
Yeah.
Show for our Cumberland Valley extravaganza down the road there, and that was just a pretty incredible show last year. I can't wait
Yeah.
for that one as well. So, but
And we'll do our picks and we'll see if I go 6 for 6 again like last year. But we're gonna see what teams get there that might want to defend that state title from last year. And there's some good programs that could get back. You might see some familiar names, and then again, you might see some surprises. But we're gonna find out this weekend. Who moves on.
Yeah, that's the best part about this tournament. So anyway, well, listen, Dave, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. So much fun
Thank
here, and
you.
thanks for everybody, who tuned in here. Thanks for
Yeah, thank you.
Bruce Emsweiler and the Red Tornadoes Football Club,
We
doing the
appreciate it.
chat. Yeah, we do this. We do this live to give the fans an opportunity to interact with the show. There's really, no other podcast like it. The Fresh Set of Downs, and then the WPAL Blitz Show. We bring
Hmm.
the fans into our show because the show is for you, the fans. So anyway, for
Absolutely.
so for Dave Micah, I'm Bruce Badger. Hey, listen, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week